This is Mission Pulse. We spotlight those making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. With me today, Korrin Moon, president and co-founder of Lantern Rescue. We're going to start right at the beginning today, which is, what is Lantern Rescue?
So Lantern Rescue is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is focused on rescuing victims of human trafficking around the world.
You work actively against human trafficking in Pennsylvania and overseas in 18 different countries. Many people think that human trafficking isn't happening in their town. Can you paint a picture of what human trafficking looks like and speak to rural Pennsylvania?
Yeah, absolutely. So human trafficking is happening in every country in the world, probably every town in the world. What that looks like is a lot different than what people generally think, and that's kind of where we get this misconception that it's not happening where people live. But to speak specifically to rural Pennsylvania and what you're most commonly going to see in areas like that, we're going to see a lot of stuff online with rural Pennsylvania when it comes to kids. So something that also should be mentioned is that victims of human trafficking can be any age, race, or gender. This is not just children. This is not just girls. This really can be anyone. But what we do see when it comes to children, specifically in rural Pennsylvania, and the type of trafficking that they might encounter, is a lot of online stuff. So sextortion, CSAM, which is the new word for child pornography, and grooming that's happening online that is causing children to develop relationships, to be groomed by traffickers, and then to enter into some situations where they're sending nude images online and traffickers are selling those, and they're actually meeting up with people and being sex trafficked in person.
Which is crazy. You would think in your own home that something like that could never happen, but they think that these people are friends that they meet online. I mean, the grooming is legit in how this happens.
Yes, absolutely. They really are going to develop a relationship. They're going to, oftentimes they'll pretend to be someone around their age, or they'll be the cool older kid. They'll share common interests, isolate them slowly. They really do take their time with this grooming process.
How big is human trafficking? I mean, you mentioned at the beginning, probably every town in the United States is impacted. You said it's not just teenage girls, but give me some numbers and statistics. How often are people getting pulled into the human trafficking system?
Globally, there's somewhere between 28 and 50 million victims of human trafficking. Those numbers vary a bit depending on what source you're looking at, and that is determined whether they're considering different types of trafficking like forced marriage into that number. So somewhere in there, 28 to 50 million people globally. That number is probably not entirely accurate, but it's the best estimate we have because no one's taking a survey about human trafficking. Victims are not answering a MailChimp survey about whether they're a victim or not. Most victims of human trafficking don't realize they're victims. And actually, a lot of traffickers wouldn't identify as traffickers. That might be their business. It is a massive thing, and it's hard to really quantify because there's a lot of misconceptions as well as people aren't aware what it is, so they're not identifying as that. But it is something that anyone, truly anyone from any, like I said earlier, age, race, gender, any social class can be exposed to, whether that's online or in person. We even see stuff in rural parts of Pennsylvania and other rural parts of the United States in massage parlors. There's human trafficking that's going on in massage parlors. In certain restaurants, in agriculture, there's human trafficking, both labor and sex trafficking, that can be happening within those places.
What are some things that we can be doing to protect our kids?
The biggest thing I would say when it comes to children is really knowing who they're communicating with online and not necessarily putting really harsh restrictions, but having an open conversation about their online presence and what is not appropriate. I say not super harsh online restrictions because one of the fears that we have, and something that I've seen, is when someone is so restricted online, their parents don't let them do anything at all, the kids are going to get around it. They're going to go to where they're told not to be, whether it's Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it is. They're going to have conversations they shouldn't be having. And then when something goes dark, they're going to be afraid to talk to their parents because they're already where they weren't supposed to be, and now they're in more trouble. Not saying you should let your kids have access to everything online. Absolutely not. But keep them safe online presence and what is and what isn't allowed. For example, don't add people that you have not met in person, period. So when it's my friend's cousin that we played soccer against 4 years ago, no, that is not someone you actually know. They just want to be friends. What do you mean they just want to be friends? This whole culture of kids putting their value into how many friends and how many likes they have online is very toxic, and we have to start to make it cool to have a small group of friends that you trust online, because what kids are sharing online is their grades, their fight with their parents, their friends, where they play soccer at, what pool they go to in the summer, all these things that can make them a target for individuals that mean them harm.
Tell me one story out of Lantern Rescue that will always stay with you, something that makes you get up every day and do what you do.
a couple of years ago, we had a very large rescue in another country. There was 83 victims that were rescued as part of this operation. A couple of them I've stayed in contact with, but one in particular that I've stayed in contact with for years, who was in her later 20s when she was trafficked. She had a young son at home, and she was trafficked from her home country into another country under the false promises of a job. And when she got there, she ended up being sex trafficked. We do see that pretty frequently overseas. Even after they were rescued and the traffickers were arrested and put away, she still thought she owed her trafficker a debt for paying for her passport to get her over to the other country. The level of grooming and indoctrination that these traffickers have on these people, that even after they're in prison and the victim is freed and back in their home country, the victim still thinks that they owe a debt. They still think that they need to be taking care of this. And even months later, when I visited her in her home country, she still was coming to terms with the fact that she had been a victim of human trafficking, because even on the day of her rescue, she still didn't think that's what was happening to her. She thought that she had a debt that needed paid, and this is how she was paying it. So stuff like that always sticks with me, because it shows that level of control the traffickers have and how well they're able to isolate and manipulate them.
How can we stay in touch with your work?
We are on social media, just Lantern Rescue on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then our website is lanternrescue.org. Pretty simple. And if anyone has questions, you can email us at lighttheway@lanternrescue.org.
Korrin Moon, president and co-founder of Lantern Rescue. It's a job that probably none of us want, but we're really, really grateful for the work that you're doing every day.
Thank you.